Boris Effects presents Mocha 2021, the world's most powerful and celebrated planar tracking tool for visual effects and post-production. Mocha Pro introduces PowerMesh, the exciting new subplanar tracking tool designed to track warped surfaces with stunning speed and accuracy, and can be used to drive rotoscoping and mask creation. Plus a redesigned Adjust Track module when your tracking needs a helping hand. For example, when objects go off screen or become completely occluded by foreground objects. A host of under-the-hood engineering features give you an even smoother experience, and also brings the Python script editor to the Mocha Pro plugin. Mocha's multi-award-winning planar technology has evolved to go beyond rigid planar surface tracking. PowerMesh brings speedy subplanar mesh-based tracking to your shots. Leveraging years of tracking expertise, PowerMesh is the fastest tool for difficult warped surface tracking. Add elements onto non-planar surfaces, retouch faces, clothing, and much more. Mocha Pro's purposeful user interface and workflow is designed to simplify complex visual effects tasks. PowerMesh fits this ethos. Generate a stabilized mesh for compositing and paint work. Then simply reverse the process to reintroduce the original motion. Your changes fit perfectly onto the non-planar surface. PowerMesh goes beyond mesh tracking and warp stabilization. Automatically warp your spline to make rotoscoping easier than ever, with less need for manual adjustments. Produce consistent and accurate rotor splines powered by the PowerMesh. PowerMesh tracking can be rendered for a warped stabilized destabilized compositing workflow that will work in almost any VFX or editing host. PowerMesh dense tracking data can be exported to Adobe After Effects. And with the new Alembic export support, mesh tracking data can be imported into Foundry Nuke, Autodesk Flame, Blackmagic Fusion, and 3D applications like Cinema 4D, Maya, and even Unreal Engine. The best thing about PowerMesh is it uses the tools you're already familiar with. Create splines as you always have, and let Mocha do most of the work for you. Seeing fast visual results let you tweak and make adjustments while you work. PowerMesh even works with other Mocha layers to avoid occlusions and reflection elements that cause other tracking applications to fail. And Mocha Pro's new approach to mesh tracking doesn't require optical flow render passes, bringing a speedy process to deliver the results you need. The 2021 release of Mocha Pro is a huge step forward for all types of Mocha users. Visual effects and motion graphics artists will love the new opportunities delivered by dense PowerMesh options and mesh stabilization workflows. Everyone doing rotoscoping will enjoy the ability to roto with fewer keyframes when using the new warp spline feature. Complex tracking shots that previously needed a lot of artist intervention or multiple data exports are made simpler with the reinvigorated Adjust Track module. And all Mocha Pro users will benefit from the under-the-hood changes that help drive this newest version of the world's most powerful planar tracking software. Mocha Pro 2021 is available now. Visit boriseffects.com to learn more about the new features, licensing options, subscription plans, and upgrade pricing. You can also download the free trial to test it out for yourself. Boris Effects presents Continuum 2021, the single largest feature update in Continuum's long and storied 20-year history. The 2021 update introduces the brand new Cinematographer's Toolkit into the Continuum family, a collection of over 80 brand new filters with more than 1,000 presets. Designed to simulate real-world optical camera filters, specialized lenses, film stocks and grain, lens flares, optical lab processes, and more, the Cinematographer's Toolkit is the perfect choice for bringing an analog spirit into your digital world. But that's just the start of the massive new feature list included in the 2021 release. Particle Illusion, Continuum's fast and easy-to-use particle generator system, adds many new improvements, including the ability to emit particles in a full 3D environment. Primat Studio, the award-winning keying and compositing tool, features a brand new edge cleaner. And Title Studio, Continuum's 3D titling solution, features updates, enhancements, and overall performance improvements. All this and more make Continuum 2021 a must-have upgrade for any editor, artist, colorist, or compositor. With an emphasis on high-quality image processing and optimized for speed, the Cinematographer's Toolkit introduces over 80 HDR-ready GPU-accelerated filters into Continuum. Apply realistic or stylistic looks to your footage using film stocks, looks, or grade. Completely change the look and feel of your project. Create the emotional look of classic cinema. Particle Illusion has been given a huge overhaul that sends it into a new dimension. Continuum's lightning-fast particle generator system is now 3D. A huge variety of looks can be created with just a few small changes. Continuum 2021 can be purchased as an upgrade, a permanent license, or as an affordable monthly or annual subscription. For full information about all the new features included in this massive update, visit us at boriseffects.com. Boris Effects Sapphire 2021 is a huge step forward for artists and editors using this collection of over 275 video filters for Adobe, Avid, Autodesk, and other supported OFX hosts. Sapphire 2021 boasts huge speed increases with brand new GPU support for Mac users. UltraGlow and UltraZap are two new filters that redefine and push the envelope on Sapphire's favorite effects. Sapphire Lens Flare has been updated to bring even more life to dynamic, realistic, and stylish lens flares. For Sapphire fans using Apple hardware, it's time to strap in for big speed boosts. Metal is Apple's proprietary GPU language and is supported in all our host applications. Over 60 Sapphire effects have been rewritten to benefit from Metal acceleration. Performance will vary depending on GPU, OS, and the filters you're using, but editors and artists can expect an average of a 20% decrease in render times when using Sapphire 2021 with Metal compared to Sapphire 2020.5 with CPU rendering only. Sapphire's S-Glow has long been a legendary effect across the post-production industry. UltraGlow carries the tradition of S-Glow's amazing beauty, speed, and ease of use, but pushes these ideas forward, allowing new looks, impressive photorealism, and unique features. Plus, a large number of presets designed for video and typography to get you going with a single click, or inspire your next look. Be prepared to make UltraGlow your new favourite. Available only in Boris Effects Sapphire 2021. Sapphire 2021 has another new filter to show, UltraZap. UltraZap builds on the legacy of S-Zap, another modern classic, used in countless films, TV shows, and commercials. UltraZap blows it up for 2021 with new functionality and usability. Get ready to jumpstart your new production with Sapphire UltraZap, only available in Boris Effects Sapphire 2021. And Boris Effects Sapphire 2021 features our best collection of lens flares to date. With the new 2021 release, Boris Effects Sapphire cements itself as the foremost collection of video plugins for editors and visual effects and motion graphics artists. Find out more about all the new features and improvements to Sapphire 2021 at boriseffects.com. Sapphire is available for Adobe, Avid, and supported OFX hosts as a full license, an upgrade, or one of our flexible subscription plans. You can also download a free trial version to see it for yourself. All at boriseffects.com.
to Boris Effects Live, sponsored by Dell Precision Workstations, create without limits, and by NVIDIA and Intel.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. My name is Ross Shain with Boris Effects, and it's a snowy day here in New York where I am, and I know some of my colleagues are fighting the snow as well here on the East Coast of the United States. So I really thank everyone for joining us today. Today we have a pretty cool topic. Basically, my colleagues and I, we're going to cover some projects that we've created in various products that we make. We're going to talk about how we can use Continuum and Sapphire and Mocha kind of together to sort of inspire us to be creative. So it's going to be a really fun one here. So before we get started, I just want to mention a couple of things here. While we're streaming, you can always ask questions. And if you're on our YouTube channel, you can, chat. Post your questions in the chat. We will try to bring them, get your questions in as we go through it. The other thing I do want to mention is on the Boris Effects website, on the Boris Effects Live page, we do have a prize giveaway. So make sure that you scroll down to the bottom on the Boris Effects Live page, register, and that way you're going to be entered in. We're giving away a bunch of prizes today, so that's always a fun thing. So yeah, we're going to be giving away a subscription to the full Boris Effects suite, and maybe some other prizes, Ben. I'm not really sure, but I'm sure we'll get there. As you guys know, the Boris Effects suite, if you haven't heard of it, it is basically all of the Boris Effects products on one license key, and you can basically purchase that on an annual subscription or on a monthly subscription. So that's a really cool prize today. So, and again, another thing I just want to mention, and I do want to thank our sponsors, NVIDIA, Dell, and Intel. We've been working with Dell quite a lot, this past year, and their workstations and their laptops are just killer. In fact, a couple of us just got the brand new Dell, what is it, 57 or something like that. Anyways, it's a really, really nice laptop. So I do want to thank Dell for sponsoring these presentations. And lastly, I just want to mention you can always follow us on social media, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, Instagram. A lot of us from the company are active on these accounts. It's a great way to share, tell us what you're doing. We're always really interested to see how you guys use our products and plugins and software. So let's get started. Again, I'm Ross, and I'd like to introduce you to a couple of my colleagues. Most of you guys know Mary Poplin, who is the Mocha guru. So Mary is here with us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Good to see you, Mary. I guess it's probably warm where you are, huh?
Well, it's getting a little colder right now, but it's certainly not snowing.
Yeah. So I woke up this morning with a full foot of snow here in New York. So yeah, pretty fun. And the other person I'm going to bring in today is Peter McAuley. So many of you know Peter, who's the product manager or senior product manager of Boris Effects and working a lot with the Continuum products. Hey, Peter.
Hey, guys. How you doing, Ross?
I'm pretty good. Hey, you've slicked back hair today.
I know, yeah. Stealing my girlfriend's hair bands.
There you go.
What's that?
Peter's rocking the man bun. Nice.
Yeah, it hasn't been cut since, I think, February. Yeah, it's usually short, but I just no thanks. I'll skip that for now.
Cool. Looking good. All right. Well, we're going to get started here. So again, just, please feel free to join in the chat. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over to Peter, and Peter's going to talk a little bit about how he's using particle illusion and how maybe Mocha can relate to particle illusion. So Peter, I'll give it to you to take it away.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ross. Thanks so much. So let's see. I'm going to just click here and do a little click there and share my screen with everybody. You should be now seeing my After Effects project. And hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar today. So, well, we're going to talk a little bit about particle illusion. And I'm sure, like many people, are familiar with this product designed by Alan Lawrence way back when. And, it was a great product, went to version 3, and really wonderful. People enjoyed it, got a lot out of it. And suddenly it just sat for a while. And then Boris thought, this is a great product. We need to work with this. So So Boris started working with it and charged me with working with Alan, who we hired. And we've been massaging this product and bringing it from a version 3 into a really like a state-of-the-art particle generation system. So for those that aren't familiar with what particle illusion actually is, I'm just going to show you right here. It's a simple plugin inside of my After Effects project here. And I've got about, I think it is, the count is like about 350 filters now, the latest version of Continuum. We just released an update with 80 new filters, which is amazing. I don't think 80 filters, just not, every time I think about it, I'm blown away. But anyway, let's get lost in the woods there. For particle illusion, it's simply a plugin inside of this massive collection of filters that is Continuum.
Peter, this is Ben from the control booth.
Okay, hi Ben from the control booth.
Could you just hide the bottom bar, please? Oh,
thank you for mentioning that. You mentioned this before, and I
thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks. So anyway, particle illusion, as I mentioned, is a plugin with thousands of presets. It's really a really easy to use particle generator. You can do things, everything from like generating flames. I'll just hit the space bar here so we can have a look at a little preview while this is going on. You can generate some nice flames. And these flames you can see on this hot rod, I've actually used the integrated Mocha masking and tracking option inside of particle illusion to track these flames to the side of the car. And just letting it play through, I mean, if you look at this, just thinking about the tracking aspect of this just a little bit, it's going to stop it right there, and I'm going to shrink this down, and don't need the character tab. I'm going to close that panel and just zoom in a little bit on this, because what I want to show you is one of the great things about Mocha, and that is the fact that being a planar tracker, it can track through things like blurs and problems with a shot where something or motion can cause these kinds of artifacts, which would throw off a point tracker. But Mocha just tracked this through in seconds. It's remarkably easy. Anyway, quick mention there on what is inside of particle illusion. So tracking, it's also great for masking. So I've got a couple of examples that I'm going to sift down through here during the next 20 minutes or so while we look at particle illusion, and you'll see some of the reasons why Mocha is so important inside of particle illusion. And also I want to mention that particle illusion is not only a plug-in filter inside of the Continuum Megaset, but it's also a completely free standalone product that you can download from our website and do exactly what I'm doing here, except for the tracking, which is in the plug-in version only. So let's just click on particle illusion just for a second, give you a quick tour of what the user interface looks like. And it's coming up here now. And there we are. And so particle illusion, as I mentioned, is really kind of preset driven. And if I just drag this window open, nice little fast window, you can see that all of these preset emitter shapes in my library. There are thousands of them. I think the last count, I think it was like 3,500 or something like that. So that's this piece here. We've got a little favorite section in here, so you can favorite any emitter and just you can preview any emitter just clicking in this OpenGL preview window. I can drag around so I can see what this would look like if I were actually put this on a motion path or animate the position of the emitter. And if I just push this back over this window here, and then we can see there's a group of parameter controls in the center. And then in here, the final result and the particle illusion timeline. So you can see our tracked flames on that car. So that's just the quick overview of what particle illusion actually looks like. And I'm just going to cancel back out of that and go down our comp. So as I said, we took this version 3 of particle illusion and then we built it into a 64-bit product. We reskinned it, gave it a whole new user interface, added in more emitters and libraries, added in the Mocha tracking feature inside of there, and I'll just scroll down. And you can see in this one, as I mentioned, I actually used this Mocha tracker. If I turn on the motion path, you'll see that as I scrub down through, oops, turn off the render and turn on the actual live project there, you can see there's the tracking. Now you're seeing two lines here. And these two lines indicate two different things. One is called a world, which is this one, and the other one is the emitter, which is that one. And sometimes you're going to want to track a world, sometimes an emitter. So for instance, if I click on come back up to the top, choose, say, the emitter, and you can see why I did not choose the emitter for this particular project, because if I just choose the emitter, it tends to streak out and you don't get the result that you really wanted, which was to make the flames track onto the car and not drift off, because flames have a birth and a death, so they tend to move over time. So that's that car. That was a piece of cake. This is another kind of like a real world use of particle illusion, because as you can see, you can create all kinds of things in particle illusion, not just like fancy flames or heads-up displays graphics, but in this particular shot, the steam vent on this cruise ship is actually 100% done inside of particle illusion. If I just go back into my actual live project here, I'll just toggle the filter off. You can see without the flames and back on. And without me toggling that, you probably never would have guessed that that was a fake set of flames. I know I wouldn't, and I've been in image processing my entire life. So another little quick show of what you can do, some fun that I had actually playing around with particle illusion when I was building these demos, was in this shot, she opens her eye and it becomes this flaming sun. And again, I used the integrated motion tracker feature, Mocha, inside of particle illusion to track this to our eyeball. And I actually used a second feature inside of Mocha to help with this particular comp. And that is the built-in masking. So you can see up here, there's the Mocha tracker, the tracker's on, but we also have the pixel chooser. And the pixel chooser in every filter is a way of like selecting pixels, either regions or actual pixels from the live action shot to filter. If I turn on view matte, we can see that when this comes down, here we go, we should see our little matte effect. And it's basically it was just the circle around her eye to hold back the flames from going over her eyelashes, which I didn't want, I was going to say it wouldn't look real, but that doesn't look real to begin with. So another little project here that I worked on was this owl turning its head. And as it turns its head, the eyes turn into these crazed orbs. And again, these are just particle emitters. It was simple. It was just drag and drop, fuss around with the particles a little bit, and then use Mocha to actually track these into the shot. This was another one that we created for a show back. And of course, if I just turn off the flame sword render there, we'll go and turn off the effects. And you'll see that this is the actual shot that we just download from Pixabay. They have some great live action shots that you can download for free and work with. And that's what I did with this one, downloaded this, and then tracked in the sword to this shot. So the first two emitters that we saw, they were point emitters. This is actually a line emitter, so it goes along the length of the sword. And we'll have a look at some of that as we move further on down. Now, this is yet another use of Mocha inside of the particle illusion filter. Let's turn the filter off. There's the live action shot. Let's turn particle illusion back on. And it's thinking about rendering, and it'll get there. But basically what I did was on this one, I used this amazingly cool masking feature inside of Mocha. I'm just going to open up the Mocha interface from within particle illusion there just to show you the mask that I created. And I created this mask, and all of a sudden you're like, what is that? And that's a lot of tension points around a spline shape. And you're thinking, well, okay, how many hours did you spend splining that up? Well, actually, if you use this magnetic spline tool, you could get a workable shape around this in a matter of seconds. So moments instead of hours to track something down is what is one of the great things about Mocha. And of course, I've botched that one up a little bit, but that's okay. There's a great shape there for you. Everything here is, of course, adjustable. So you can say I can drag these around and reposition them as needed. But we'll delete that because we like this one a lot better, don't we? I'm going to close this. Don't need to change. And basically, that just contained the particle effect to the top portion of this shot. This was another one. And again, just looking at the detail in here, this took seconds instead of hours for me to actually spline mask out. So that's one of the beauties of having Mocha inside there. So another thing about particle illusion that you may or may not know is that it's also a transition effect. So if I just come down to the beginning of this shot and just hit play, we'll see here's our hot rod revving up. And as it starts to move over to the transition to the next, I have keyframed a particle illusion transition. Use this countdown effect for the next hot rod to take off. So just like the particle illusion that I showed you, it has the same user interface, it has the same features, but this time it's an auto-animating transition. I'm in After Effects, so I needed to keyframe that, but if I was in Premiere or Avid, I could achieve this exact same result in seconds. Very easy to use, very easy. This is just a preset. Just loaded it up in that. So that brings me into some of the newer features inside of Mocha, inside of particle illusion. Excuse me. So everything I showed you was what we had up until the previous release. This piece that you're looking at right now would have been impossible to create up until the current version. So let me just go into my lines here. Okay. Very strange, isn't it? There we go. So just going to scrub through this and show you what is happening here. So we have a simple particle system. It started out as a simple particle system, just a preset that I dragged into the stage. And then I added a couple of the brand new features inside of particle illusion for 2021, which is lines and full 3D. So particle illusion is now a 3D particle system. It has a 3D camera, so you can circumnavigate a particle system. You can the particle systems themselves are 3D, so as you can see, they're always front-facing. It's billboarding, so all these particles are always facing the camera. So as the camera moves around the object, or as the object spins around on its own z-axis, you'll always see a full. So that is something cool. We're going to look into that, how I made that in just a moment, but I'm just going to go further down into my last comp here, and I'm going to click play on that. And always helpful if I start at the beginning, right? So I'll hit space bar. And in this one, me being a bit of a filmmaker, I started to set up kinds of filters on particle illusion and some text to produce this kind of a result. And just a brief explanation of what you're seeing here. You see the particle explosion. That was just a preset. I dragged it at the stage, made a couple of mods, not too much. I duplicated it, turned off some of the elements, and that's what you're seeing with the background sparks that are flying around there. I've also added in a bunch of different filters, and this is great because, I started off by building it, let's see, building, say, this. Let's see if that'll solo up for me. And yep. So I started out with this. Let's drag back into the explosion section. There we go. So I got that. Then I thought, these sparks are great. I want to duplicate them, but I also want lines to come off of them. So then I duplicated them and built the lines, and that is this one here. So if we scrub down, you can see there's the particles turned into lines. And the difference between this and this one is simply that I enabled the lines feature and I turned on some turbulence. So we have a turbulence feature, which we debuted in the previous version of particle illusion, which enables these lines to move around in a much more organic and real-life way. And so then just a bunch of filters, like jockeying filters on top of text, edge grunge, and fast film glow, and turbulence, and prism, and got a fade in there just for the end. But let's quickly jump into my previous comp. There it is. And I hit the shine button by mistake. Oh, not seeing that one. So I'm just going to go down into my comps here, and I'm going to reopen that comp because for some reason it seems to have decided to be shy. So we'll go to my projects here, and that's comp number 9. Just double click it, and oh, doesn't want to show up. Okay, that's fine. I can go with this one. So we'll go to particle illusion, and I will just launch particle illusion right here. And wait for the UI to come up. There it is. Okay, so you can see I started with just a solid layer, just this solid red. And I'll just move through, and you can see there's the explosion. And basically all I did was select one of these flames from the library, Sparky Clouds, you can see it right there. Double-clicked, added it to the stage, and just made a couple of mods. So if I wanted lines to come out of this particular one, all I would need to do is to scroll down and find the lines, which are inside of the Sparks particle group, and inside of properties, and just nested down there is a group called lines. And we'll go to the lines group, and if I click connect to emitter, there it is, and we now have lines on our emitter. So let's cancel that for a second. And I'm going to come back into this comp and add in a new solid layer, and quickly, while I still have a couple of moments of time, I'm just going to go down to particles and show you how to grab particle illusion and drag it onto a solid and launch it. And when the UI comes up, there it is. And there's our library. So let's go down, say, to my favorites, and I can search on my favorites here. So click on the favorites button. And this was one I was using. So I'll just double click that. And that adds it to the stage. Let's like click a little way down the timeline so we can actually see some result from this explosion. There they are. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Now I'm going to scroll down to rockets and starting to get close to the end of the amount of time that I have on this one, but let's go down to properties and lines and just click connect. There you can see it. That's how easy it is to create this stuff. I mean, it's child's play. You know, once you just figure your way around the UI, you can create these unbelievably complex particle systems with just a couple of clicks. So Ben, how are we doing on time there? Is that are there any questions that you wanted to pop in?
Yeah, Peter. Yeah, it's looking good. I think we're pretty much covered in this time, but you know, there were some questions in the chat about a Linux version of particle illusion. I know that's on our sort of like roadmap, but you know, I don't know if we have any time, you know, to talk about when that is potentially possible. But that was one of the questions that came up in the chat.
Yeah, Ross, that's a great question. You know, it is definitely in the works. So a Linux, as I should just preface this by saying Continuum as a product runs on Macintosh and Windows operating systems currently. We are working on some Linux port, and this particular product, the particle illusion product, is being ported over to Linux, along with some others like Primat. So time-wise, I would think 2021 would be a good time marker on that. I mean, it's not a simple task. It's not the most complex task either. It's just really just muscle work. But we're doing it. It's happening.
Yeah, it's just trying to find those cycles in the development time. But yeah, I know from, you know, a lot of my colleagues who work on Flame or Resolve are kind of interested in that Linux port. And as Peter mentioned, you know, so Continuum is available on Windows and Mac OS, but many of other products actually do support Linux, whether it's a Sapphire or Mocha or Silhouette. So, you know, we as a company, we definitely are, you know, supporting and the Linux platform. So, Peter, thank you so much for that cool little, you know, walkthrough of particle illusion. I mean, it's a really fun product. I was saying in the chat that I used it when it first came out many years ago on a Beastie Boys video. So it's really fun stuff. play with, and it's so
Yeah.
easy to use. That's number one thing. It's speed and usability. So thanks a lot for that.
Totally. Oh, you're very welcome. It's my pleasure. My pleasure.
So Ben, at this point, before we move on, I think we have a prize to give away, don't we?
We do have a prize, and I am very proud to say congratulations to Anil Griffin. You've won 12 months of the Boris Effects suite. So well done.
Yeah, congratulations, Anil, but we'll be contacting you with your prize shortly. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of my own little presentation here, which you guys don't get to see that often, but I'm going to share my screen for a second, and you can tell me if we're ready here. Let me know if you can see my screen.
We're looking good.
Okay, guys. So I'm in After Effects here, and I thought it would be fun today. While many of you might know me as kind of coming from the Mocha team, I do come from a history of working in visual effects and also motion graphics. So I thought it would be fun to show you one of the newest Sapphire filters that just shipped. And we're going to be talking a little bit about Zap and UltraZap. So, and then I'll kind of show you how I've used it on a recent project. So if you've never used Zap, basically here under all the Sapphire effects under render, you have some cool tools here. Zap and Zap From and Zap To. These have been in there for quite a while. So this is the original Zap here on my screen. If you guys can see that, and I can go full screen here for a second. You can sort of see it's a really great filter. It's really easy and fast to use. And what's kind of cool about Zap in itself is, you can basically play with the spline. It's very interactive. And I know some users, in fact, Mary was talking to the guys at Encore recently who use Zap on the Netflix show Black Lightning. They use it exclusively in Nuke. It's really great just to do tons of kind of superhero kind of like looks, or you could use it for, environmental things. Just like all Sapphire effects, you could go into the preset browser, and here you just have tons of really great presets. Again, this is the original Zap filter. So what's kind of fun is that people don't really think of using Zap for this kind of thing, but you actually have all kinds of different looks that you can create with by playing with the various parameters. You can create kind of gun elements and ray guns and things like that. So really recently, and also I'll also mention this is a important point is I'm in SZap, and you can sort of see the parameters controls here. There's a lot of parameter controls, whether it is to play with the branchiness or play with wiggle and the length of the lightning bolt, things like that. So let's look at UltraZap for a second. So this is UltraZap, which is brand new, again, found under Sapphire Render. Is you're going to have UltraZap, which has lots of really cool features. And the team from Sapphire did a really nice job on the features here. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through a little bit of UltraZap. And then we're going to ultimately show you how I use this on a kind of fun animation project. But if we look at the UltraZap preset browser, again, presets in Sapphire are cross hosts, which is really cool. You can really create some very cool looks. Ben, I think you created some of these, and I know John Dickinson also. What you're going to kind of see is that you can actually, within the one effect, you can have multiple bolt generators. And that it can be very, very fun to play with. So let's close that. And here in the UltraZap, just kind of show you, if I go, say, for like the bolt structure here, I could add more bolts very quickly. Obviously, you can change the color parameters, but that's nice here. Now you have a taper start and taper end, and you have looping as well. So if I go to the bolt animation here, you can basically start playing with the speed of the loop. And then if I preview that a little bit, you're going to start seeing that these bolts are going to loop along the path. And then, as I mentioned, you also have a secondary bolt structure here in Zap. If I turn this on, you're going to see a second element of of different lightning here. And again, you can play with the branchiness in many, many parameters here. Finally, down here at the bottom, you also have Ultra Glow, which is a new effect, which is found in Sapphire. And you can get some really, really beautiful glowing looks with multiple, it's almost like I don't know, sort of like a master glow where you have a secondary glow width as well. So you can really get some very beautiful looks in just the glow, and it's all combined into this one effect. So that's kind of just a really quick overview of UltraZap. And before I show you, I used it just to kind of create a fun little animation here to kind of show you how we'd use it on like an environmental kind of shot. Here, let's go full screen here so you can see it here. But I added just a couple bolts of lightning with the UltraZap, and I also just kind of complemented that here just to kind of show you. Let's look at this. This is that project. But every time I added a zap filter, so here's like the zap right here on the bottom. I also above it on an adjustment layer, I added the S flicker, which is just a great effect, just to give me a little bit of, that the lightning, when it hits, that the entire screen is going to flicker on and off. That's just a little quick tip, and really make that look a little bit more realistic. Obviously, sound effects would help a lot here. I'm not the police academy guy. I could make my own sound. There you go, Ben. Thank you. Yeah, Ben and I, when we're at trade shows, we like to make our own sound effects. Pew, pew. But let's also see, I've also here added, just for fun, on this adjustment layer, I did add BCC rain, which comes from Continuum. So the rain in the effect is coming from Continuum as well. So it's really fun to kind of mix, Sapphire and Continuum together to kind of get every look that you need. So let's move on a little bit. Another cool thing about UltraZap, and this is really neat, is that you can apply it to text layers. So this is really cool because you can basically apply a text layer and tell UltraZap to use your text outlines. So there's a couple examples, and here on this one After Effects layer, I have a UltraZap. Let's go down to the bottom and I have it set to zap only, but if we set it to screen, you're going to see that there's my text element that I just created in After Effects, right? So we can edit this, change our text and stuff like that. I just have this set to zap only here, and then what you're going to see is it's just stroking the After Effects text element with our zap elements here. And the way you set that up here is up here in the UltraZap pull down here, where it says the default would be this, and here's going to be back to my kind of our stroke, which is basically the spline based elements from the zap interface. But we can change that from UltraZap to use the AE path. Hopefully you guys can see that there. And now it's basically going to use the path that I've selected. In this case, it's the text element from After Effects layer. So this is unique to the After Effects. If you're using Zap in a different host, you are not going to see that AE path there. I just wanted to make that clear. But it's very, very powerful to After Effects users in the house. So that's cool. It's that UltraZap on text. Now the next thing here is we also have the ability to apply UltraZap to masks. So here's a couple of masks that I have just to kind of show you. And if I look at the effect, there's the effect again using UltraZap. We have one bolt in the first bolt structure. We have a couple bolts in the second structure, down there. So and then we can basically, instead of setting that to our text, we can set this here to be all paths or just the selected path. So you're going to see there's my path, my mask 1, there's mask 2, or let's look at all paths. And then essentially we're going to be stroking the After Effects path with this kind of stroke that has many, many different properties, as well as the looping animation and all that kind of good stuff. again, I'm not going to get into the too much into the weeds about UltraZap, but it's just been a really fun plugin to play with for me since it came out. And I just love that you can apply this in different ways than just a pure like lightning kind of look. So here's where the creative inspiration happens. So I'm gonna show you, I created this project a couple months ago, and we actually have it on, I created a tutorial for this particular one. I love rotomation, I love like Waking Life and Scanner Darkly and this kind of looks. I've always just personally been a big fan of this. So I created this using Mocha and After Effects and lots of fills and lots of tracking. But I created this animation in probably about one day. And that was really my goal, to see if I could create something that looked good, but not spend, I'm not a painter. Mary can draw, but I can't really, my drawing skills are not very good. So I'm going to show you, basically when the Zap filter came out, Brian asked me, hey, Brian Fox, who's our director of product marketing, he asked me, hey, can you create something interesting with Zap, kind of like what you did with this animation? And so I took this clip, and I'm going to kind of break it down how I used Mocha in conjunction with UltraZap to create something that kind of ended up like this. And if you saw the Sapphire 2021 release video, you might have seen this. And let's just oops, sorry there. Let's go to full screen here so you could sort of see this. And it was really fun. And again, I probably spent about a day on this. But the goal here is kind of create a rotoscoped animation that had a graphic look using these kind of vector-based strokes. And many people don't think of Mocha as like a creative tool. People love it for tracking, for rotoscoping, and lots of visual effects. But I actually think, well, hey, it's you have tracked masks. Why not use them for creative uses as well? So let's kind of break down a little bit how I created this. And let's see here. Okay. So here's like a sort of like work in progress. And what I'm going to do is kind of start from scratch maybe, and I'm just going to kind of break it down a little bit. So let's, in fact, I'll hide those here. And let's go ahead and, yeah, we'll do it here on this clean one. So I'm just on layer 1 here. I have everything else turned off. And what we're going to do is we're going to apply Mocha. So we're going to go here and go under Boris FX Mocha. Many of you know that Mocha AE, it ships free with After Effects. We've been inside of After Effects since CS4. It's really great. And if you've never used Mocha before, I really encourage you guys to check out Mocha AE. All you have to do is apply it to a layer, and pretty quickly you'll be into the basics of planar tracking and roto with Mocha. I'm actually going to use Mocha Pro because maybe we'll touch on a couple other features. So to get into the Mocha interface, you basically just hit the Mocha button. It will take a second. Just bear with me for 1 second. And you're going to see here that this is Mocha 2021, which just shipped very recently. And Mary, after this demo, is going to be showing you some more deeper Mocha tips, and probably cover PowerMesh as well. But I'm going to kind of just show you how we might go ahead and rotoscope and start creating some interesting animation using Mocha. So I'm using my X-spline tool here, and maybe I'm going to do something like this on the finger here. And definitely, like, I wasn't looking for super accuracy when I created this project. I was really just looking to create nice splines that tracked quickly. So here's the shape that I've created. Again, it's layer 1, and a very good practice, especially when you're going to get into a Mocha project that has, potentially 50 or 100 layers, is name your layers. So I'm just going to say this is the finger track layer up here. And then what we're going to do is select that layer, and we're just going to go ahead and track forward. So I'm going to hit the track button. And as that's tracking, I'm going to ask Ben or any of the other guys here, are there any questions?
I think the chat's actually been sort of quite quite active, but the all the questions have been answered so far.
Okay,
People are loving
great.
what they're seeing, though.
Okay, excellent.
Which is great.
So yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm just having fun tracking my finger there. At this point, down here, it starts to go off a little bit because of the motion blur, but let's just see if we maybe turn off shear. Just if I can kind of buy a couple of frames now, we're good at that point. So I might even do something like this, just kind of cheat it. Okay, we got a couple more frames out of it, which is nice. And then let's just animate. In fact, well, I'm not going to use this for roto. I'm just going to use it for track, but okay, we're off screen at that point. So another quick tip is just right here, I'm going to mark an in. So then every layer in Mocha has an in and out. So if I play that back, you'll see it plays and it goes, and then boom, we're off screen. That little bar there is telling me that my layer is out. So what I ended up doing is tracking a lot of elements. Mocha is a planar tracker, okay? So that finger I tracked with just shear, translation, scale, rotation, and shear. I don't want to track perspective when I'm doing roto very often, although I might track the sunglasses with perspective, which I'll show you in a second. So what did I do with this? I'm going to hide this, and that finger track is still there. And then I'm going to find the frame where most of my fingers is visible. Let's do this now. Now I'm going to go and maybe make another shape, and this could be done with a freehand shape. If I just click and drag the freehand tool, really quickly, I could do something like this. Right click and close it. You could also use the magnetic spline tool, which is the same tool, but you just click down and very quickly kind of do this kind of tracing thing. When it goes, undo that here. When it goes to maybe here, I'll just click down and drag, and then go back onto screen. So you have lots of nice tools there. Let's add a point up here, and right-click to smooth out all my points. In fact, I might even delete some of these because I really just want like a simplified shape. And another cool thing is you can then, if you've used the magnetic layer, you're going to find this detail parameter here over on the left, and I'm going to turn that down. Sometimes you have to click away and then click back to it here. And then, yeah, just like I'm going to say the detail back to 1, and let's do that, add that point back in here and smooth again. But that's like a quick way that you can kind of create a rough shape with your magnetic spline, move the details down. And then you're going to take this spline, layer 3, we'll call this hand roto. I'm going to take hand roto and link it to my finger track, and then that's looking good. It's going to go off screen. Okay, so we have one keyframe. Let's go to here. Let's drag a couple of these. Now I'm just going to add a couple quick in-between shapes. I'm not the roto master that Mary or Ben are. They've both shared you guys many tips over the years. But my goal here is just to kind of correct some of these little roto drifts. But again, because we're doing this for Shin and not for a full-on, VFX shot, I'm pretty happy with that very basic roto. And in fact, we can look at this like this with our overlay tools. And I would say, I really recommend that users, a lot of people use Mocha very quickly just for tracking, but learning these overlay tools, very, very, very useful for advanced roto work. So there's my cutout just to you, so I can sort of see, okay, I'm happy with that. But look, down here, my thumb starts going off. So let's just kind of correct that right there. And again, since we're just demoing, I'm not going to kind of worry about the quality there. Okay, here's another cool kind of thing that you can start doing, which I did in my project. So that's hand roto. What we're going to do is then I want to create some more little fun details. Let's kind of sell this animation. This might be a little bit of my fingernail for his finger there. We'll take that, we'll call it fingernail. My spelling's terrible, as you guys, my colleagues know. I'm going to take that track layer and I'm going to link it to my finger track. And then let's just look. Finger's looking pretty good there. Down here, it's good, it's good, it's good. Maybe a couple keyframes. And we're pretty happy just to have a little kind of animated finger that is gonna, yeah, by then it's off screen, we're good. Okay. I'll show you one more cool thing while we work on the finger, which is a lot of people don't know that you can use open splines in Mocha. So say I want to add some fun little details here well, fun is relative, isn't it? I'm gonna close that spline with a right click. You actually do have some controls here. So we're gonna go to spline and say open spline. And now I can kind of just smooth that out a little bit, kind of just like make some kind of element on the finger like this. Maybe and that could be, you know, whatever detail one. Let's not worry about the naming so much right now. Let's add a couple more little details.
Can we speed details a little bit because we are running out of time?
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so I have a couple of details here. We have our splines that are visible, right? We basically have those splines visible. And what we're going to do is we're going to save this. Now, what I'm going to do is within my After Effects project, what we're going to do is basically we're going to create After Effects masks. Now we have those masks, including our open splines. I did forget to link those, so we're not going to worry about that, but the same exact process, right? And then what I did would be to take these mask elements with M, simply Control C, create, save my masks. Let's make a new solid layer at the top. Let's paste my masks. Okay, so now we've just pasted our masks, and let's pull a zap that we've already that I already had there. And then you're going to start seeing pretty quickly we have our animation. Again, we didn't animate those little details, but that was really the idea behind the whole thing. And obviously that would go on top of, my full animation. So I'm going to break it down for time. A couple of other elements. Here's the final project again, where what you're going to start seeing is every single one of these elements that you're seeing is actually a I broke them down to have a lot of control. So let's look at, here is a solo, here's all the hand elements. You guys can see that is filled with a black layer. Here's the glasses elements. I thought I might have time to do that, but I did not. I don't have time to really get into all. Again, that was a planar track. Just one planar track drove all those animated elements. Okay. And then, of course, as we go down through our elements, there's one actually even more complex area. If we look at the original here, was the beard. And you'll see in the beard, I have about, I don't know, 50 different little strokes. And so I'll just show you how I did the beard really quick. What I actually did was I have the beard element, which was just a single track done in Mocha. And then that was attached to a null. So you could sort of see there's my null layer, just one element. And then what I did is I basically, on an After Effects layer, I drew a bunch, because it's probably a little quicker to just do it in After Effects than go back and forth to Mocha. I drew a bunch of little quick open splines here in After Effects, and you'll see that After Effects layer is actually linked to the null that I tracked in Mocha. It's very, very simple, but it was a really effective way to get this kind of cool animated look, and each of those strokes is animating separately. In fact, in the zap parameters, you can tell the masks to apply randomly. So then every different one has their own little timeline without having to break those into a really complex layer. So I thought that was a nice sort of solution to kind of create a more complex animation without having to without having to track or create all those little elements in Mocha. The last element I'll cover, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, Mary, is just I also created these glasses, which again, just simple masking with Mocha. These are just mask elements that were created in my Mocha project. And then what I ended up doing was filling it with a light leak, which was kind of fun, with a Sapphire light leak, which is basically just to kind of give it a little bit of, kind of lighting effect. And then I also applied the Ultra Glow, which has an edge detect kind of. I didn't really want to deal with animating and rotoing the fingers that were in the glasses, so I kind of cheated it with kind of some effects like that. And what we end up with again in our final, let's look at it on the split screen here. Oops, sorry. And what we have is our before and after final there. I'll just let it play a couple times. I was able to create this using the Mocha tracking in the roto tools, using the open splines, using freehand tool. I was able to create this animation in about 6 hours, I think, maybe 8 hours, maybe a day, one day. But, it was really fun to play with. And I think that's really the point of this particular exercise, is to kind of show you that, you can use Mocha in a very, very creative way, certainly in conjunction with a lot of the other Boris tools. That's my dog and pony, Mary.
I love it. It's a great shot. Like, it's very impressive. You've gotten nothing but love in the chat about it because it's such a simple technique, but it's actually an amazing look. So, everybody loves it. And we've answered all the questions for Mocha because obviously I was in the chat and so was Peter, but it's really impressive.
Excellent. Well, guys, let me stop sharing my screen here. Okay. Hey, well, I am back. Ben, let's give away a prize.
Oh, that's a very, very good idea. Okay, so the next prize is going to Sarah Oze, or I'm actually now becoming famous for mispronouncing everyone's name. So maybe it's Sarah, maybe it's Sarah, maybe it's Sarah. But congratulations anyway, you have won 12 months of the Boris FX suite.
Yeah, congratulations. Okay, well, this is probably the moment that many people have been waiting for. I know there was a lot of PowerMesh questions in the chat, and Mary has a lot of fans out there. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Mary. Why don't you tell us what you're going to show?
All right, so I'm going to show you a sort of a beauty shot where I'm going to take a woman in makeup and add some freckles, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and show you what that's going to look like. Let's go ahead and share the entire screen one and allow. Okay. Can you see my screen? It looks like it's really way zoomed in, though.
It's looking good.
We can see it, Mary. Yeah, no problem.
All right. Sorry. That was that's how it's displayed over on my secondary screen here. Okay. So I'm going to take this lovely actress and I'm going to enhance her look. So in this case, she's got some makeup on, but the makeup kind of blows away her skin texture. She doesn't look very natural. And so what we're going to do is we are going to convert this to some, I always push this a little far. So we're going to convert this to giving her some freckles and what we might say are like cute imperfections in her skin. Bump up the saturation and stuff, make the details in her face a little bit more vivid and make her eyes a little bit more vivid and her lips as well. This is a really fast shot. It's like deceptively fast. And what we're doing is we're actually only using, I'll show you, in order to do this, we're actually only using one single clean plate across the frames. Okay, but here's why this works. What we're doing is we are pathing these freckles over the top and then we're doing color corrections using Mocha. And of course, we're using PowerMesh to do this. So let's talk a little bit about PowerMesh. Now, one of the things I do want to point out about this woman's face is you can see that the motion of her face is, she's tilting her head all around and that's no problem. But she's not tilting her head like, further than, 20 degrees to a 180 degrees range. So what I mean by that is like, she's not completely turning her head away from camera on either side of the camera. And that becomes important when you're dealing with planar tracking and even subplanar tracking. And if you have that sort of turn, I just want to let you know, you are going to end up having to do some hand animation to get around that, the same way you have to do with regular planar tracking or anything else. So, don't expect it to be a miracle tool. It's a great tool. So here's how this works. We're going to go ahead and launch Mocha, which we've applied as an effect on our timeline inside of After Effects. But this works in After Effects. It works in Nuke. It works in all kinds of pieces of software. And let's talk a little bit about how we create this mesh generation. Now, I'm going to blow this away and start from scratch for a second, just to show you how we did this. My frame aligns on the last frame, so that's where I'm going to start my PowerMesh creation. Just because that's what I like to do. You don't have to do it that way, but I also like to start tracking where the face is, as usual in Mocha, most parallel to the camera, largest in frame, and least blurry. That still applies, okay? So I'm going to take my X-spline tool, and we're going to drag our X-spline tool around her face here. Now, the planar tracker, usually you want to track outside the area that you're trying to track, but notice I'm staying inside her face with my PowerMesh creation. That is important. PowerMesh is really sensitive. So if you take PowerMesh and you generate your points off the spline and you have your spline outside of the area you're trying to track, PowerMesh is going to leave points on the background because it's tracking subplanar areas and it's really sensitive. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my X-spline tool. I'm going to use Add to X-spline. You can use magnetic or freehand or whatever you want, but since I'm demoing here really quickly, and this is a garbage mat, we're going to go ahead and make some big garbage X-spline shapes. All right, so we're going to hold those out just like this. The reason we're holding this area out is because A, I don't want this detail in my PowerMesh track, and B, she's going to blink and move her eyes a lot. The next thing I'm going to do is also hold out her mouth as well for the same reasons, okay? So now that I have my shape here, let's go ahead and pull these points down just like here. What we're going to do is we're going to, again, soften those shapes just like this, okay? And now what we're going to do is we're going to generate a PowerMesh to track this face. All right, and here's what we do to do that. We're going to track translation, scale, rotation, shear, and perspective, and mesh. When we hit mesh, a mesh is automatically generated. I don't want to use this automatic generation, so I'm going to switch to uniform. I'm going to hit generate mesh. Now, this is a 4K shot, and I'm using a 32 sized mesh, which is 32 pixels. That is just not going to work. So let's do like 100 and generate our mesh, okay? Or we could do 60 or whatever we like. But it's important to have enough mesh detail to have a complex warp. But what you really don't want to do is you don't want to have a mesh that's so dense that you can't track it because it's going to take forever. You'll also get wobble in it if you're tracking too small of a detail. We have over here a smoothness generator. Now, smoothness, we can do auto smoothness if we're unsure, or we can leave it at 50 for things like faces. For things like pieces of paper, we might want to crank that number up to 80 or 90. For things like water, we want to crank that down to 0 or 10, okay? So just think of it as how much smoothness is how much it adheres to the base planar track, because what we're doing in here is really cool. We have the Mocha planar track that drives the overall motion, and then on top of that, we have some subplanar motions. So we're doing subplanar tracking, which means we're tracking actually a lot faster than some, optical flow techniques. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hit track on this. So I'm going to hit track backwards, just like this. And you can see it tracks pretty quickly for how many points it's tracking. But again, it takes a couple of seconds per frame to track. I am not going to make you sit through this whole track because I have already baked this cake for you. So let's just go ahead and let's blow this away and let's reopen Mocha just so I have my original track. Here we are. And again, because it's a super dense mesh, it is going to take it a second to load. And here we are. This is what we end up with for our track, this very nice dense mesh. And I think I ended up using something like 60 for this. So there's our lovely mesh track. Now we're going to stabilize this because this is a stabilized workflow that I'm using in After Effects. It works in Nuke, it works in Avid, it works wherever. What we're going to do is we're going to go over to our stabilize module, okay? And we are going to mesh warp stabilize, unwarp on high. Okay, so let's turn this off. And what you'll see is that this is stabilizing my shot. Always ends up looking a little funny, right? Because we're holding the shot in place. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this stabilized data and we are going to apply it inside of After Effects. So we just save and close. And we're going to copy this effect and we're going to paste it here. And so what we do is we check our render checkbox, and instead of stabilize unwarp, we're going to hit stabilize warp. All right, so this is our freckles frame. and we're hitting stabilize warp on it. And now what we end up with is let's let this play. Let it play. There we go. So now what we end up with is these freckles put on her face according to a still frame that we created of freckles on her face. Now, you can tell that because of our still frame, we have some things like some eyelash lines here down at the bottom of her eyes and other things that we don't want to keep on this shot. So what we're going to do is we're using that same mat that we took in Mocha, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to just isolate certain areas of her face, like her eyes, and punch up those details really quickly so that we get rid of any errors from our still frame that we used. And then I'm just going to slap a quick color correction on here using some BCC hue, saturation, and lightness. I tend to always punch it up when we're doing online demos just because of resolution over the internet. But what we're going to do is let's just fit this. It is fit. Perfect. We're going to show our before and our after. So really, really quickly, without having to do a whole lot of work, we end up with this lovely shot. The longest part of this shot was waiting on PowerMesh to track, which took about probably 15 minutes. So that is a really simple effect that you can use to do some really complex beauty work without doing a whole ton of work using PowerMesh. Now, we did have some questions about what do you do when you have... So in Nuke, I would use the Olympic export. I just saw that. In Nuke, I would use an Olympic export for this, honestly, because it renders a whole lot faster in Nuke when you do that. And it's the same workflow, more or less, but we have that on our website, or I can just show you really quick what that looks like. But we also had a question where somebody had asked, what do you do if you have somebody that's moving a lot? And I kind of want to address that, and I want to see if I can find it really quick, because it was a good question, and it's a little bit, where is it? Give me 1 second to find it. There was a really complex shot that I had done. Skin cleanup severe. All right. So this shot, I just want to really quickly kind of show what's going on here. This shot I cleaned up, but there's a lot of head turn on this shot. Like he's turning his head quite a bit away from camera and back. So there's some really extreme motion. When you're using PowerMesh, to sort of get around using extreme motion, what I did is I actually did this in a lot of pieces. So I did a piece for the side of his face, like for his cheek where it was stretching. So anytime I had a problem, I basically patched that with a new PowerMesh over the top to get several different pieces blended together. And then I mixed those into, a single pre-comp in Nuke or something. You would do this as its own little node tree and then path it in with a merge over. There's 2 different ways to do this. But basically, I patched in as much as I could in pieces to find the best results. Okay, so what we ended up with on this is, let's find our severe. Here we go. And so what we end up with is actually something that's pretty nice as a skin cleanup. But we have to make sure that we're blending all of our patches together. So I didn't, just to recap here, what we did is we used several different patches and blended them together with feathering to try to make this work. So I hope that answers Nick's question. And then we'll move on to really quickly covering how we do this in Nuke. I just want to show you a node tree because it's a good question. And I have the node tree set up for a slightly different shot that you guys have seen in another webinar. Yes.
At some point, also, it might be nice, and maybe I missed it, just to explain the stabilize reverse stabilization method as well.
You mean in Nuke or
No,
in?
It doesn't matter. Just sort of like to explain the various. Obviously we have Alembic for Nuke, which you're going to show, but also if you wanted to, just to mention that if you want to use the Mocha plugin to render the reverse stabilize workflow, do your paint or whatever, and then put the motion back.
Oh, okay. Yes, I showed that in the warp, but I didn't show it as a stabilize, and then
right.
I just showed it on a still. Right. Okay. Perfect. I'm just trying to understand. Okay, so we have a read geo here, and a camera here. And basically what you do is, you set up a node tree where you have a regeo, your input, and this can be a node tree or whatever you like, your background, scanline render, and a camera. Inside the camera and the regeo, you basically load in a file that you export out of Mocha. The file looks like this. Let's find where's our Mocha? Here it is. So launch the Mocha UI really quickly. And what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to our face Alembic export. We're going to go to export track, and we go Alembic mesh data and save it. Okay, that's really all we do. And then inside of Nuke, regeo, camera, scanline render. All right. And then in your regeo, you just make sure that you load in your ABC file. Same thing for the camera. Load in the exact same ABC file. And then if you composite it together using scanline render, here's your BG camera object. You end up with this. It's a pretty simple workflow inside of Nuke. As far as stabilized workflow goes, so if we wanted to stabilize this workflow on this lady's face up here, let's go back to let's see, where is she? Now I can show you on this guy. All right, so if you wanted to stabilize a workflow, what you could do is you could come into your shot here. Let's go ahead and turn all of these off. Here we are. We could take this file, take our Mocha, and we can make sure that we have our shirt tracked. In this case, it looks like this. All right. And you can see here that we've got a lot of holdouts over what we're trying to track, okay? And that our holdouts are huge, including this shadow here. It's really sensitive, so really think about your holdouts when you're tracking with the PowerMesh tracking. Okay, so we're gonna save this file and close it. I've already saved it, so I'm not gonna. And down here in module renders, what we can do is we can go ahead and say we want to render this with a stabilize unwarp. And what that should do, launch Mocha again because I must not have set it. Let's go over to our shirt, go to stabilize, mesh warp, unwarp high. Let's go to that, save it, and close it. We should be, yeah, there we go. So we're going to hold this in the middle, and what we can do is we can copy this, copy, or edit copy, right? We can layer and pre-compose, move all attributes into the new composition, just like that. Inside of our move all attributes to the new composition, we can do things like paint, for example. So let's just flip this and, paints. That looks really good. Very good paint. Let's just make that smaller. Boop. All right, so we can paint that, and then what we can do is we can layer and pre-compose this and move all attributes into the new composition, just like that. And then what we can do is we can, back in After Effects, we can go to Edit, Paste, and then we want to go to Module Renders, Stabilize, Warp. All right, and that'll warp our shot back over the top. Excuse me. Well, it would help if I would put, the paint for the entire shot range, but you get the idea. The idea is that you must warp and then rewarp to get that workflow together. So that is PowerMesh as a walkthrough, and I feel like I've probably gone way over time. I've gone about 10 minutes over time. But if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
No, very cool examples. Definitely this last example too, Mary, to be able to track the guy's shirt, as the hands are going in front. Very, very, nice example. I would also just really encourage, people to watch some of the tutorials that you and Ben have created, because, it's a whole new process for Mocha. It's a new way of thinking, to think that it's not just a flat tracker, and it can be very sensitive, as you said, right?
Yes, it can be. So it's very good to start thinking about, how the motion is going to translate. So I really like it as far as a tool goes. I feel like it works really nicely, really well. I do want to point out though, like you really do have to look out for things like like when you're thinking about occlusions, you need to think about occlusions a little bit differently. So this right here, do you see this where this little light is coming over his shoulder right here on the right side? When you're tracking with the PowerMesh, you want to make sure that you avoid that kind of interference in your track. And it's the same thing for any optical flow tool or any other tool that's judging pixel difference over time. You just need to make sure that harsh shadows and harsh lighting are held out when you're tracking, more so than when you use the regular planar tracker. And that's just something to keep in mind, because a lot of times folks will not think of those as occlusions, and you have to think about those as occlusions inside of Mocha for the subplanar tracking.
Yeah, definitely great advice. And then also, of course, the smoothness setting too. Dialing that smoothness setting up or down depending on how much warp. The balance between the warp and the planar track itself. Lots of cool techniques to really solve difficult shots with the PowerMesh.
Yes.
Well, thanks a lot, Mary. Great job as always, and Peter as well. Thank you very much for showing off particle illusion at the top of this demo. And I think we're very close to the end. I'd like to ask Ben to announce our last winner.
I have another winner for you. Got it, actually. Now I just need to find where I put the winner, which is there. Congratulations to MK Wheatley, or as I would normally pronounce it, MK Wheatley, for your 12 months of the Boris Effects suite. Congratulations.
Yeah, big congratulations. And I really want to thank everyone for joining in with us today. Again, some of you are snowed in like me, and some of you are all over the world, but we really appreciate your time and your support. And this is the last live stream of the year for us, but don't worry, we're going to be coming back with lots of great content coming up in the year 2021. And all of us internally are really looking forward to this next year, a little bit of a reboot of after this difficult year. So from all of us at Boris Effects, I just want to wish you all happy and healthy and safe holidays. And that's it. See ya.
Happy holidays.